Hello, welcome to LLG's Random But Real podcast, where you'll hear conversations about any and all things random with an entree, not a side dish, of mental health advocacy. I use my performance, communication, and literary art skills to bring awareness about mental health and other topics. Therefore, whether I'm singing, speaking, or writing, it is my desire that my words will be melodic, just like music to your ears. Welcome to LLG. That's me, Lisa L. Gilliam's Random But Real podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of LLG Random But Real podcast. I'm super excited to have my girls on here today. It's been a minute since we had an opportunity to talk, especially because we used to do YouTube lives every month. Well, that's not true. We still talk all the time. We're just not speaking live in front of you all. But if you're out there and you've been following the podcast, and I hope that you are, then one of my guests, Ashley Lockley, is actually her podcast is out now. It came out on Wednesday, the third of three, because her testimony is so awesome and she had so much to say. Well, I wanted to know things too, so you can check that out right now here on anchor.fm/Lisa Gilliam. I actually just retweeted that on Twitter, or reshared it, I should say, on Twitter. And then Ashley's been posting about it too. Say hello to the people, Ashley.
Hi.
Is that all you're gonna say for real?
Oh, you said say hello. Hey
Okay.
everybody.
All right, and then I have my other sis on here, both of my sisters. One is older. That's all we're gonna say. I tease people who are older than me because my brother, my biological brother, he calls me his way older sister. And so anytime I get to tease someone else that's older than me, I do it. But in love. Say hello to the people, Danya Parker.
Hello, everyone.
And that's all you're gonna say too.
I'm with
I'm just messing
Ashley.
with y'all. See, they're good. They follow directions. That's how that's how it should be. So anyway, we are excited. One, because Wednesday, May 18th is my what, y'all?
Birthday!
Birthday!
Woo woo! If it's your birthday, make
49,
some noise.
40.
If it's your birthday, make some noise.
I'm really excited to celebrate another birthday, especially because it has been a year or a few years because of the pandemic. But I'm excited. I have some great news that hopefully I'll be sharing with you all really soon. But today we are here because we are doing our annual Mental Health and Ministry Forum on Saturday, May 21st. I should have the time in front of me. I believe it starts at 1 o'clock, right, y'all?
1 o'clock, 1 to 3.
1 to 3. It's virtual. And hopefully we'll be able to continue this. We do it in conjunction with Peace Lutheran Church. So shout out to Pastor Gaines and Mrs. Gaines for joining us or joining with us to co-host this event. We have not, well, we haven't had it in person, what, maybe 3 years? I think because the last 3 years have been virtually, and it's still been successful. Last year we actually had a senator get on the call.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we've had a lot of pastors and preachers and ministers and community leaders, and that's what we want. One of the things that we've learned is that a lot of people don't know exactly what to say to someone
Mm-hmm.
who has a mental health diagnosis, or maybe unknown diagnosis, or someone who's having mental health challenges, or you know we want our conversations to be restorative. I'm also a restorative practitioner. And we want people to be uplifted and encouraged, and not, let me just use as an example. If somebody said, hey, I have diabetes, most of the time people aren't going to say or automatically think the negative. But then there are times where people have said, and I've heard it, you change your diet, you could just change it. Well, what if the person is type 1 diabetes? Changing the diet does not necessarily mean that you're going to remove them or they'll no longer have diabetes. Now, I got to give a caveat. My dad had it before he died, and God completely healed him. I know this for a fact, and he no longer had diabetes. He actually was overweight, and had type 2 though, and was able to lose the weight and also no longer have to be on medication. It was um no record of diabetes in his body. At least, he's not here to confirm that, but that's what I was told. My dad died in 1990. So
Wow.
I still believe that God can heal. But I do understand that there's some situations, even Paul talked about it, that you actually do not heal from. And I believe that emotional scars sometimes are that, physical illness,
Mhm.
and sometimes mental health. What do you all thought on that first?
I feel the same way because I think sometimes there could be something that can trigger your mental, and it can take you back to a place that you've been trying to heal from. So
Mhm.
it's still a process, a learning process, but I really do think sometimes, I don't think sometimes, the mental part is kind of hard to escape from.
Okay. And then if you all could say your name, if I don't say your name, so that people know who's actually talking, like this
Mhm.
is Lisa speaking, y'all. So that was just Danya. Okay, thank you. Ashley.
I would definitely agree. I think that healing is something that a lot of us want to conceptualize as something simultaneous.
Mm,
Though it can happen that way, but most times the healing that we are able to attain in this life is a process. There is a whole, you know, um, there's a whole kind of understanding and journey that we have to be on in order to get to whatever destiny that is. And a lot of times it doesn't look the way that we want it to look.
mm.
Um, our understanding of healing can be very small. Um, and so, one of the things that I'm learning is that maybe I'm putting God and myself in a box when I think about all the ways that healing can come in my life. And so, um, yeah, those are the first thoughts that kind of came to my mind.
That's awesome. A good perspective for both of you. So that just made me look up the definition of healing. Like sometimes you know how we hear words and we're so used to hearing them that we just automatically believe that this is what it is. And then you'll read the definition and you're just like, well, that's not really what it says. It says the process of making or becoming sound or healthy again. And
Mm,
so, thinking of sound, that could be sound mind, right?
Mhm.
That could be sound just in our thought process, which I think in a sense is what you were alluding to, Ashley, if you think about it.
hmm
And then, healthy again, which means that we had a start at some point. A lot of people, yes, are born into the world with some type of illness or disease, but a lot of people aren't, you know.
hmm
I was not born fat, and some people may not think I am now, but I do. And I know I am. I know what my scale says. So, you know what I mean? That's just me. That's my own image, my own thing. But I also don't need you to tell me that I'm fat. That's when we have a problem. I'm
Right.
I'm good at owning my own stuff. I don't need you to tell me, what it is that is actually going on with me. But I do need you to check you when you do something that doesn't agree with me. And I've mentioned that to you. Any thoughts on that, Ashley?
No, I think that that's fair. I do think that it is important for us to be honest with ourselves
Mhm.
Mhm.
about where we are. Um, and when we're honest with ourselves, um, it can be it can be easier for us to handle the situations where people feel like they need to be honest for us. But I
Mhm.
think
Mhm.
that's part of setting boundaries, right? Everyone
Mhm.
Right.
has different boundaries. Um, I too am fat, and I don't see it as a derogatory term when I use it for me or
Mhm.
toward myself. It's just it's it's a fact. I'm obese, right? But no, I don't like to hear it from other people and don't like to be reminded of it.
Absolutely.
But one of the things that and this is just an example because for everyone's going to be in different places,
Right.
but sometimes when I hear people refer to me as such, it reveals parts of myself that maybe aren't as healed as I thought, right?
Mm-hmm.
Around self-image, around like what does it mean? Like what does it say to me? What do I tell myself when I hear someone refer to me as being fat, or you know, having dealt with depression, or whatever you want to put there, right? What does it say? What does it make me believe about myself? Because that's really honestly where the hurt comes in. It's
Mm.
not necessarily what's said, but it's what we believe about what's said, and the messages that we receive from, or the messages that we kind of create to ourselves about what people have said about us. And so will I ever get to a point where, like, hearing someone else acknowledge, like, my biggest pet peeve is going to the doctor and the doctor is obese with me. Like, since we're in the same category and you're talking to me about losing weight. Now, ma'am,
Child.
sweep around that own front door. You know what I mean? I get real defensive when I
Right.
know that, right?
Right.
Would I ever get to a point where I don't get as defensive? Possibly. I think, even with me working on myself now, and actually having an established routine of like exercise and moving my body more days than not, like I may never be skinny, and I don't want to be skinny, right? I'm okay with where my body is, but I know for my health in particular, like I have to do better, right? So there, a lot of times when we think about um the balance between knowing where one is, and being okay with where one is, and being confident, right, with where one is, whatever that may look like, but then also acknowledging that there could be other things that you're doing, that you could be doing, that could um help you to facilitate further healing, right?
Right.
So would it be helpful for me to get a few pounds up off my knees? Sure. I think my knees are going to thank me a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
um but there's always going to be kind of that tension, right, of those two things, and it's hard, right? It's hard. A lot of the messaging that we receive from society says this is what things should look like, this is what you should look
Mm-hmm.
like, this is what how you should operate. You still shouldn't be, crying about your mom passing. You shouldn't still be, feeling, things about your brother's passing. For me, you shouldn't still be feeling crazy about, things that happened 10, 15, 20 years ago. We are always trying to put, these constraints on people, their processes, and who they are. And so ultimately, the things that we tell ourselves about what other people are saying to us, that's really where the power of things to make or break us comes in.
Absolutely. Danya, did you want to comment on it?
Excuse me. I think Ashley hit the nail on the head. And it goes back to that trigger portion. People don't realize what they're saying and how it can trigger somebody or how it affects anybody. So we need to be mindful of what we say and what we do. And
Mm-hmm.
I truly believe that we need to start meeting people where they are.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
For
I
sure.
agree. I think that that's why this, for me, one, this podcast is super super important. Excuse me. I really want to, like, if you listen to the trailer, it's like conversations about any and all things random with the entree, not a side dish, of mental health advocacy. Because I was having a conversation. I don't know if my friend's gonna listen to this. I've known this person since junior high school, and I just told y'all 49, so I can't even say that was like around the corner. However, um, I we were talking about equity and inclusion and actually gender, um, sexual preference, those type of things. And so since I've been doing more restorative work, I have been more open and honest and aware of my language. Do I always get it right? Nope. But I'm trying. And a lot of people don't think the two tie into one another. It's really interesting to me that I was saying that, to me, a definition, I can't tell you what you are, right? I can't tell you, like, I can't stand with somebody it's just like, you're not depressed,
or you, if I was depressed, or you don't be, you're not anxious, or ain't nothing wrong with you, that type of thing or whatever. Just get over it. Those type of comments, right? When I'm trying to live the best way that I can so that I can get out of my own way or get out of whatever it is that I might be, feeling or experiencing, etc. And so this year at the Mental Health and Ministry Forum, um, and Ashley always puts it in such eloquent ways, a discussion about intentional and responsible language around mental health, um, which is super, super, super important. And then the implementation or implementing restorative practices into faith-based spaces. The way of being, the framework of restorative practice, restorative justice, restorative approaches, whichever word you use, really can help you have more restorative language so that when we say things to people that goes against whatever it is we believe. Now, I can still believe what the Bible says. And if it says X, Y, and Z is a sin, then I personally can believe that. But I'm not going to treat a person differently because my belief is different from theirs. Um, I'm still going to try to uplift. I'm still going to try to encourage. I'm still going to try to treat a person like a person, even if my own personal beliefs may not line up with theirs. Because first of all, I can't judge nobody, because if you knew all the skeletons in my closet and all the times that God healed me, or all the times that God gave me grace and mercy even though I didn't deserve it, I can't, come at you for your stuff. But we often say things and aren't aware of what it is that we say. And so I think that this was a great topic to come up with, Ashley. Why was it important to you? Ashley, are you still there, Ashley? We'll come back to her. Danya, what do you think about this year's topic?
I think it's one of our best ones because it goes back to what I was just saying. People need to meet people where they are. So there's a lot of people, and I say this a lot. The person that smiles the most is hiding the most hurt. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel that I'm one of those people because, just like you said, I have a lot of skeletons in my closet. I've done certain things, but you wouldn't know it by the way I act or anything like that. So we need to stop judging people and actually look at that person in the mirror,
Okay, I
because
agree.
you need to pay attention to what you're doing versus always putting someone else down. And I truly believe that hurt people, whether they realize it or not.
Right, right. And yep, I understand. I think it was funny because my friend was saying, he's like, I'm not judging. And I'm just like, well, if you're telling somebody what they are and they're telling you that that's not what they are, we were just, like I said, specifically we were talking about gender and sexual preference. I was like, it's not for me to tell you. I'm not inside your body. I don't
Right.
know. But um I can still talk about what my beliefs are with that, but it's not for me to say. So we were using examples of, like, if you, I don't even know if I want to get into it. It was very interesting. It was a very
Right.
interesting conversation. So you all, Ashley's back. Her the call dropped, and so Ashley, before you fell off, um, I was asking, why did you decide, like, to pick this topic this year?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Woo, I like okay. All right. Technology. So I have always been one who I, okay, I'm gonna be completely honest. So I am very big on messaging, both how I express and how I receive, right?
Hmm.
And so one of the things that I'm always mindful of is being responsible with my language, my word choice, my word usage, and I also, being a daughter of the Black Baptist Church, I know all too well that the church generally can be very flippant when it comes to language
Mhm.
usage, especially under the guise of well, God told me to say this, or, well, the Bible says blah, blah, blah. No, the Bible doesn't say blah, blah, blah. And so we will use God, the Bible, you know, prophecy, word of knowledge, whatever the case may be, whatever spiritual gifting, whatever, to cover up our responsibility to still be mindful of where people are. And there is a way of challenging people to move forward without completely dismissing or minimizing where they are. There's a reason why God created us with the ability, the capability to be able to do things like feel emotions, positive or negative, right? There's a place for them. If we're busy just trying to broad stroke everything as something that it should invoke positive emotion or can be turned into positive emotion, then we are being dishonest. Um, and we are not, it's another way of us kind of boxing God in. God shows us throughout the whole Bible that God has a whole range of emotions. So
Right.
if God has a range of emotions, why can't we?
Right.
And so we have a bunch of people walking around, even in our churches, where this is a place where people are supposed to be able to be free,
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be able to live, right? Supposed to be able to have the abundant life. We'll go, we'll sing, we'll shout. I mean, we'll buck for a good 30 minutes, get you a nice little cardio workout in, and still not be happy, whole, or healing
Mm-hmm.
because I'm busy trying to convince myself that I shouldn't have emotions because someone told me this, right? Someone told me, oh, you just need to pray about it. Someone told me in the middle of my grieving process that I was being emotionally immature, right?
Yeah.
Spiritually immature, right? These are the things that we say to people.
Right. That's wow.
And it's dishonest and it's damaging. And so, as
Absolutely.
someone who has been on the receiving end of it and has also seen it way too much, and I'm gonna be honest, in the past, I'm sure I have engaged in some kind of irresponsible language regarding mental health broadly, or how people are experiencing grief and loss, how they're dealing with life circumstances, right? And a lot of that happens because we are uncomfortable, right? People telling us about their stuff, especially when it's heavy, and a lot of people's stuff is heavy, it makes us uncomfortable. And so in
Mm-hmm.
those moments, we maximize our comfort, or we prioritize our comfort over that person, what that person needs in that moment. And so then it creates hurt. It creates hurt that continues on, right? It's a process. It's, kind of becomes cyclical in nature. And so that's why I really wanted us to um, go a little bit more in depth with that this year. Um, and it's not to tell people exactly what to say, but it's to get them to stop and think before I say this to a person who's bringing me my stuff, their stuff. Before I get up in a pulpit and make, a reference to some type of mental health condition, and I don't really know what I'm talking about, but I'm trying to explain it. Oh, the weather was just so bipolar, or something like that, right? Before I tell people that they're not being faithful in their walk with God because they're still struggling with grief and loss, before I do those things, I want to stop and think
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
understand that I have better options in that moment.
Excuse me. Yes, I agree.
Amen. I agree.
I agree. And sometimes it's difficult. I know I have definitely said things plenty of times. I also wanted to say when you were speaking, it reminded me of the fact that grief and loss, especially when it comes to that around mental health, is if you've never experienced it, or it's maybe your first time experiencing something, or it's a you come from a different perspective. I
Mm-hmm.
remember people telling me how their mom died, and because my dad died first, and I was close with him too, I thought it was going to be the same. A lot of people think I reacted the way I did because it was my mom. For me, it wasn't that. It's the fact that my mom was a nurse who took care of everybody her whole life. In her last 2 weeks of life, she was not able to even speak or say hello or squeeze my hand or any of the things. Y'all remember everything you all do in the background, we can hear. So
Sorry.
that's all right. And so I just want to make sure the listeners hear everything that we're talking about. But you know, it when it happened, I remember calling a friend of mine, who's actually now deceased, and saying, you know what, I'm so sorry. I didn't understand. And I did. I think a lot of people live in the place we make the mistakes, we say whatever. Some people feel that, apologies won't ever help them. I don't agree with that because God even tells us in the Bible to, if we have aught with the person, to go to the person. And usually the ought is done by something that someone said or did, right? And so, he's a big proponent of forgiveness. You know what I'm saying? 70 times seven. And he's not talking about like literally 490 times. He's saying keep on, going back. He talks about turning the other cheek. Yes, I think there's time and place for everything that we do. And I think we have to be honest about the process. But I know that holding on to grudges and unforgiveness just creates more and more bitterness, which makes it worse for us. And then the person that we're holding that on to, they go on about their life doing whatever. And we're in a place where we're just like stuck. And I don't believe that that's living, that's not celebrating life. That's just existing. And sometimes we're not even existing. And so I think that the more we're able to talk about freely what is going on with us and how our feelings are, how they matter, or just the words, like even being able to say, you know what, Danya, you hurt my feelings when, or actually you don't even say that. Restorative would say, I felt hurt when you said da da da. So just making that one change, the two different things that I said. The first one was blaming Danya. The second one was
Mhm.
saying my feelings about what it was. And so things like that might be an exercise. And just that one change can change the rest of the conversation. But
Mhm.
I have to be willing to say, Danya didn't hurt my feelings, y'all. That was an example. But I have to be willing to say it so that even she can be cognizant of what it is that she might have done or might not have done, or so that she can be aware that my feelings are hurt. So our relationship doesn't end because she said something that she didn't even know she said that offended me. You know
Right.
what I mean? It's like sometimes it's so easy for people to cut people off and be done. But if you have relationship, which again is also part restorative practices, if you built on those relationships, then having disagreements is not going to end the relationship. Um, Even sometimes when the things are really, really difficult, like restorative justice and restorative practices is even used in places where someone has killed somebody and they're there with the person that has killed them, their loved one, or has hurt or harm, real severe harm, and they're able to come to an understanding. You know what I mean? It can be that powerful. That's why I was like, I love this work, and I thought that it would be a good addition to what it is we're talking about when it comes to, just having more positive language regarding or around or surrounding the topic of mental health. So why do you all think that the people we're trying to get community leaders, we're trying to get um I guess all type of ministry leaders, so pastors, bishops, apostles, whatever, Sunday school teachers, but also counselors, psychologists, therapists. I'm not mentioning everybody, but they are mentioned on the flyer, which you can see, for the podcast. What do you think, or why do you think it's important that we talk to these individuals about this topic? And anybody actually can come. Let me just put that out there. Just because we are trying to target them, and we have a reason for that. If you are just interested in this, or you've experienced some type of um, even trauma because someone said something to you regarding your own personal mental health journey, and you're just like, I just want to know how to be able to speak up for myself and share how I'm feeling so that this doesn't happen again. You're welcome to come too. But why do
Mhm.
you all think, whoever just wants to go first and just say your name so that the listeners know who is speaking, that we should, that we're targeting these people specifically um, to come to this type of forum?
Um, This is Danya. I hear echo.
You're fine. I don't hear it on this end. Danya,
You hear me?
I can hear you. You're
Yes.
fine. Just keep on
Oh,
going.
okay.
We're live.
No,
Don't
no,
worry
no. I
about that.
know. I couldn't hear it. So I think we reaching out to these people more because we usually hold them at a higher level, and more
Mhm.
people, especially in the church, go to the church for basically anything that they're dealing with. So when it comes to a person's mental aspect, they should understand and educate themselves because people are coming to you. And that's just my take.
So let me, before you go, Ashley. So let me say, do you feel? Because I don't hold them to a higher standard. That's not my personal. I have my own reasons, and I'll share that. So are you saying that you hold, and you're saying these people? Are you talking about the church, the community, or the mental health
This is
aspect?
Zanya.
All three.
I was really referring to the people in the congregation. They truly believe in everything the pastors are saying, but if they're not understanding it themselves, you're not giving the correct information. So studies like this, they really need to attend and
Mhm.
also find other education and educate themselves on the mental aspect because a lot of them don't know.
Okay. All right. Thank you for clarifying that, Ashley.
Um, I agree with Danya. Um, being being someone who is in leadership in a church right now, coming from a pastoral family, it very is there is a double standard, or at least a higher standard for leaders.
Mhm.
Um, I don't think that I can't say that I don't hold leaders to a slightly different standard. I think that that's what comes with leadership, but my expectations are tempered, right, with the fact that they're human. So I don't have these kind of, you know, extra human expectations of them or of perfection or anything like that. Where my standards come in with leaders is, um, just continually doing um, that the work to be able to be the best you possible, right? So that
Mhm.
you're able to serve from a place where you're from a healed and whole place. So when you're healed and whole, or at least on that journey to healed and whole, you are less likely to kind of bleed all over people, meaning that it's less likely that the things that you're dealing with are going to have an impact on those you're trying to serve in a negative way.
Mhm.
And so, um, one of the things that my father, who's a pastor, has credited me on is consistently keeping in front of him things that he should be considering as a pastor. That there are people who are depending on you to, whether you have the expertise or not, right? They're coming to you for certain things, right? And so it's incumbent upon you to, one, have a good idea of what's within your wheelhouse and what you need to kind of refer out, right? But at the very basic of that, just understanding, things like your language usage, right? And those kinds of things. People are not only holding you to a higher standard, people are going to model what they see you do
Right.
because you're a leader. It's like a teacher, right? If I one of the when I was a teacher in the classroom, one of the biggest ways I was able to get students to do what it is that whatever the objective was, especially around their behaviors, is that I modeled in front of them what I wanted to see from them.
Right.
And so I think that that is, you know, I I know that people's expectations can be unrealistic. Like I said, I'm a PK, so we know about unrealistic expectations around these parts. But I cannot sit and say that I don't have a little bit higher expectations for those in leadership. But I just think that because you are a leader, people are looking to you for clues about any number of things. And so if they're not seeing it with you, chances are, I'm not saying people don't have their own minds or whatever, but they're taking their cues from you. And so you want to be the change that you know you want to see first.
Okay. So the reason why I selected these groups, well, one, I became licensed ordained minister 99, the same year I graduated from grad school. And so being in ministry for such a long time and then going through what I've gone through the last few years, I'm not preaching and teaching now, like you all know. And part of that is because of the hurt I've experienced, and some of that was because of the sin. Just being honest, because I wasn't I wasn't healed, and I do believe that you should not, like you said, be bleeding on people when you're in the process. But it doesn't mean that you're not. I'm still called to do this work, and even though I'm doing it
Absolutely.
maybe through a podcast or through speaking and sharing in my book that'll be out soon, I'm still sharing my experiences, which ultimately I believe, I'm supposed to do that. I always said that, I try to basically, be an example to people or share what I know so that they don't have to go through the same hurt. Um, it's not always fun to be in that situation, but I was also a counselor for 20 years. And I
Hmm.
I know that people would come to me or they would say things to me. So being a minister, being a leader, and a counselor, and then someone who had a mental health diagnosis, I had three different viewpoints, and sometimes it was the people in church who said the most hurtful things to me, and I
Hmm.
knew it was out of ignorance. It wasn't that they were trying to hurt me. And my pastor, shout out to Pastor Isaiah Long, phenomenal person. He was like, you've opened my eyes to some things. He allowed me to do Celebrate Life at the church for years, and that was basically an event that we did annually to teach people about um, different types of mental health diagnosis, especially depression, anxiety, PTSD, things that I had dealt with, how stress affects you, in order to prevent, suicide. And it wasn't until I started doing that type of work, even after being a counselor for such a long time, that I realized like I never really thought about the people who had anxiety who tried to commit suicide. I had only really heard about those people who had depression that tried
Hmm.
to. I never thought somebody could be that anxious. This is my old thought that they would want to, die by suicide. And yet I'd seen this video. I wish I could think about it. It was on PBS. And it was only people in the documentary that had a diagnosis of anxiety that, and
Hmm.
they talked about how they, thought about death and wanted to, end their lives. And it was eye opening. I think both of you all mentioned, education and educating yourself. I think that the reason, I guess, also why I don't hold to a higher standard is I think that's all of our responsibilities. I don't think
Yeah.
that just because you're a leader that makes you more responsible. Yes, it does mean that people may come to you, but as a leader, you should also know that you are not equipped to talk about certain things, and then you should send them to someone who actually has the degrees and the licenses, etc. Pastors, most of them, are not called to be counselors.
Hmm.
Spiritual counselors, yes, but not of your emotional and your mental health. And most of them that I've met don't know what they're talking about. And they further damage instead of help when they say, oh, just pray about it. What about go to a counselor or therapist and let's pray about it? What about the community leader, or the activist? Because restorative justice and equity inclusion a lot of times also deals with that aspect of things too. What about yes, let's fight, for what's happening, to people in America, especially like the Black Lives Matter movements and things like that. But also, let's get some therapy because, we have a history of slavery and not just physical, but our mental, our mindset, you know,
Hmm.
have been in prison sometimes too. And
Mhm.
because we're indoctrinated with so much mess, it makes it, and I'm just saying a worldly, sense, it makes it sometimes hard to be healed from the other stuff. And we stay stuck in some of those places. So many people are
Mhm.
so angry and so mad and so mean to others because of what happened to them, instead of really allowing God to heal them from whatever it is that happened. And know that, I was saying, to my friend yesterday too, I was like, we're not one dimensional beings.
Mhm.
Like, yes, I might have done X, Y, and Z, but the reason why I did X, Y, and Z is not just because I am now X, Y, and Z. Does that make sense without going into the topics that we were talking about? So I'm not my mistake. I'm not my
Mhm.
sin. If I committed the mistake or I committed the sin, yep, I did. And I own up to that. But that does not define who I am in my core. It means it's
Mhm.
something that I did. And thank God for God and Him sending Jesus, you know what I'm saying, to save me, because I have a long way to go. And it took, honestly, my mom's death to see the mirror of how broken I really was. And sometimes I think when it comes to grief and loss, it shows us really where we are,
Mhm.
how we really feel. And then how we really feel is going to come out in our thoughts, our actions, and our words. Any comments?
No, I mean,
So,
I definitely agree. Um, I do want to say that I do believe we all have a responsibility for sure.
mhm,
I think it's just a lot of times people just take their cues. That's the word, cues, from those who are in front of them.
right.
And some of that is just human nature, right?
Hmm.
But even in thinking about that, as a leader, if you can say, look, or if you can normalize the fact that you don't know everything, right? I
Right.
think a lot of people in leadership are way too comfortable with people believing that they are like kind of a one stop shop for all things, instead
Right.
of saying, hey, this is not my area of expertise, or this is not the area that I have the appropriate knowledge, skill set, etc.
Hmm.
But I'm gonna help you find someone who can help you with this. So even that, right, that does, for me, in my mind, that does include a bit more responsibility. But yes, every person should, these are things that all of us should be prioritizing, as just general practice.
Understood. Understood. So, ladies, well, let's just, now it's Danya that dropped off. I don't know what's going on. Usually it's my Wi-Fi. But thank goodness, today it's working out.
It's
So I
because it's your
definitely,
birthday,
is
Lisa.
is that what it is? I'm glad you were able
Yes.
to come back, Danya. Well, I was like, usually it's my Wi-Fi that's acted up. So we just want to give this out. Mental Health and Ministry 2022.eventbrite.com. That's the link
Yes.
where you can register. Again, Mental Health and Ministry 2022.eventbrite.com. It is Saturday, May 21st, 2022 at 1
Yep.
p.m. from 1 to 3. It is virtual, so for those people who are still concerned and don't want to be around crowds, you can be in your own home and watch it online. We do hope that you will want to join the conversation, and
Mm-hmm.
we promise you that it's always enlightening. That's for sure.
For
So
sure.
we hope that you'll come to that. Uh, Ashley, did you want to say anything about this, or also what you're doing, and make sure you allow people to know where they can find you or contact you?
No, just wanted to say, come hang with us virtually. I think that the what how we are addressing these topics this year is different, and it'll be fresh, for sure. So I'm very excited. You can find me on social media. My name is Ashley Lockley. If you want to, I guess, befriend me on Facebook. But Mastering Mind Matters is my mental health brand. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram, or you can visit our website at masteringmindmattersnow.com. www.lllg.org. Thanks, Lisa.
Hey, you're welcome. Thanks, Ashley. Danya, would you like to say anything about this and also give your information, please?
Yes, I do want to go back to the part that we were just talking about the ministers. I truly agree that everyone is responsible for learning about mental health, especially since everything that we go through affects us mentally, whether people realize it or not. I focus more on the ministers because that was the topic in so many words, but that's my aspect. But I really we're in the age of technology. There is no excuse, none whatsoever. You can Google and find anything, so it's no excuse at all. That's my take on that. My foundation is called the Rock for Life Foundation. You can find us on Instagram and on Facebook.
Thank
And
you.
that's it.
Thanks, Tanya. And you all, I'm Lisa Gilliam, otherwise known as One Singing Lady. You can find on my website, www.lisalgilliam.com. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram at One Singing Lady, the number or numeral one, Singing Lady. And YouTube, spelled out, ONESINGINGLADY. So it's spelled out, One Singing Lady. But we're all on social media. And again, if you would like to register, and we hope that you will, Mental Health and Ministry 2022.eventbrite.com. We hope to see you at this year's Mental Health and Ministry Forum. And again, thanks to Pastor Gaines and Mrs. Gaines for doing this event with us. We're excited to see what happens and what takes place as we integrate restorative practice in this type of work. And, we're all going to be enlightened and learn together. All right, ladies,
Amen.
thank you so much for joining me today. I will definitely see you virtually Saturday.
Yeah.
All right,
Lisa,
much love.
Love
you gotta
y'all.
give us a birthday TikTok. Don't
Yes.
forget.
Okay,
You gotta give us a
we'll
birthday
you know what I'm saying, that's technically that's your job, Ashley. So, if we are, doing something, because I haven't figured out what I'm doing yet tonight. And I haven't figured that out, but I do have an appointment the next day, so I'm off the next day. So I can actually hang out on my
Hang out.
birthday. Yeah.
Okay.
So
All
then I'll
right.
let y'all, if y'all want to do that, then you can even do one online. You don't even have to be there with me. Okay. You do, because last year's was hilarious. Y'all, I just gotta share that real quick. They got me, and my friend, shout out to Shawan, gave me this card where I had to sing happy birthday. You have to sing it while you're licking, like while your tongue is out. And it's
That
really
is the
hard. Try
funniest
to sing happy
thing.
birthday with your tongue out, and you have to lick the card. Like, it was, I didn't completely lick the card because I'm not touching paper. But if you could have seen it, they were laughing at me,
It
and it
was
was it was
hilarious.
it
I
was
think I still
funny.
have video.
Oh yeah, it
I'm
was
sure
hilarious.
it was funny. We all laughed, and that's what celebrating another year of life is really about. So I am very grateful to my friends and my sisters, and that was funny. So hopefully it's not gonna be nothing where I look so foolish, because it was I did not look like I had any sense doing that. But yes, I welcome all videos because it was hilarious. So y'all enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you, listeners. And yeah, we love you, and we will talk to you soon. All
Yes.
right. Have
Peace
a
out,
good
guys.
one.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Please note, any comments made on this LLG Random But Real podcast by myself, Lisa One Singing Lady Gilliam, or my guests are our own views. They are not to be made or determine an actual professional or in lieu of an actual professional. If you relate to any of the topics, please seek professional help. Contact a therapist, a psychologist, any other mental health professional, or if it's an emergency, please call 911. Thank you so much for tuning in.